The trial of Alec Baldwin is getting underway this week. Taking a look at this with defense attorney Bob Motta, host of the podcast Defense Diaries. We, of course, already saw the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial, and she was, of course, found guilty over there. We got manslaughter charges against Alec Baldwin. A lot of the same sort of stuff I think we're probably going to see in this case. How do you think, what's a preview of it when you're looking at it from a defense attorney standpoint?
I mean, I followed Hannah's case pretty closely. I mean, I think I watched a majority of it, and she was the one that I felt was responsible for this. She was the armorer. She is the one whose literal job is to make sure that there's no live rounds in those guns on the set. And she was sloppy.
Hmm.
So in terms of it's going to have to be slightly different
Hmm.
with Baldwin. It's still an involuntary manslaughter charge. It's going to boil down to, on a movie set, shit runs downhill, and are they going to be able to find that the actors now have some kinds of responsibility, even though there's people that are specifically hired to do those jobs,
Hmm.
that because they have a gun placed in their hands, that they have a duty to make sure themselves that there's no live rounds in there. I
Hmm.
mean, that's ultimately what this is going to boil down to. I, I mean, I'm not a gun guy.
Hmm.
If I was on a set and I had been cast in a movie and it was a movie that involved a bunch of shooting, I'd have no idea
Sure.
differentiate between a live round and a blank.
Yeah.
I just or a dummy round. No, there's no way I'd know.
Yeah. I mean, is it that something where that obviously, I'm guessing a lot of people wouldn't know that answer. That's why you have the armorer to begin with. But is that something where going forward, it's going to have to be, we got to learn from this and say, okay, we need to educate anyone who's handling the weapon to understand and recognize what is a blank or what is not. Or is that just a bit much? And that's why we already have the armorers. That's why we already
I
have this
mean,
back cast of people who are in those places to do that.
when you're talking about human life, um, I don't think that there's anything that's too much in terms of preserving it.
Sure.
You know, like the interesting things that are going to be about this trial is, why did he fire the weapon when it wasn't called for in that particular scene to be fired?
Hmm.
Like that. These are going to be the things that are going to come up.
Yeah.
Being that he was one of the primary producers of the movie, did it fall upon him when he became aware that Hannah Gutierrez was not experienced enough
Mhm.
to be the armorer on that? Like, is that where they're going to be looking to lay the responsibility on him?
Yeah.
I ultimately feel like it has to be,
Yeah.
right? Because it can't lay to that what we were just talking about, like that. Now every actor has to go through some kind of training and class
Mhm.
in order to make sure that they can identify a dummy round, because I just think, then what's the purpose of having all the other people
Sure.
in front of you, like, doing their jobs? It's like, or not doing their jobs. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting trial, man, because like the kind of the politics of Alec Baldwin in and of himself, like
Mhm.
Allison and I were talking about this morning. I'm like, if you get a couple of Trumpers on the jury, they're going to flamethrow this guy because they
Sure.
hate him.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, true.
like he's just very open about his politics, and like he's got a ton of people that hate him for it out there. And it's one of those things where you're a public figure that always is a factor in trials like this,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of baggage attached to him, in terms of image that have nothing to do with the trial itself, but if people know him, they may just already have their prejudgment of him and wanna see him go down for some other reason that they're not necessarily gonna reveal,
Exactly.
as a juror. I think you're right. It's gonna probably come down to that. You hired someone who was not qualified for the position. I guess the question is, what makes one qualified? Because technically, she kind of was. She had some experience. Everybody got to start somewhere. This was a fairly low budget movie, but at the same point, should there be a higher bar for getting into that position? More experience, before she stepped into that. I guess the analogy in taking death out of the equation, but if you're running a high-end restaurant and you need a chef, you're not just going to go grab the guy who's flipping burgers at McDonald's and say, well, they have some cooking experience, and then
They
be
have to start
shocked,
somewhere.
and then be
Yeah.
shocked. Yeah, exactly. Then be shocked when they screw up, the gourmet meals that are costing hundreds of dollars a plate. I mean, it's kind of like that, where someone like her should not have been in that position to begin with. But again, does that then make him liable for this, for manslaughter?
I mean, that's what it's gonna boil down to. It's gonna boil down to the reading of the elements of involuntary manslaughter, and they're gonna have to see if the state can hammer that home in terms of making it fit.
Hmm.
Like, is that will that rise to the level of involuntary manslaughter? Like, it's all gonna be about knowledge, what knowledge he had, and like we heard that there were issues with other parts of the cast and other parts of, the people working on that set that were walking off because they were like, "This set is insanely
Hmm.
dangerous."
Yeah, there's
That
that.
is gonna be that is going to be a big issue for him, and if it turns out that he turned a blind eye to it, where if he would have addressed it the day before or the day before, whenever it was becoming an issue, to the extent where people are walking off the set. They're like, "I'm not working on this job
And
anymore,
that's a
man."
big thing. That's a big
It's
thing
a
because
big
there's
thing.
consciousness out there that this is a dangerous set. It wasn't just, oh, everything's going great and holy shit, this horrible accident happened. There were warning signs that were
Yes.
certainly already there. I know it's far too early to predict this, so we'll have to see kind of how the case plays out. But do you think we're going to see Alec Baldwin take the stand at some point? Obviously, he likes to talk. He likes to present his case. I wonder if he's going to be out there.
I think in lieu of his, like, very lengthy statement in his interview that he gave, like, with the cops,
Yeah,
I I think that he will probably take the stand.
yeah.
I do. I think, and it's interesting because again, that's where that star power comes in,
Hmm.
like we saw on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, man, they both now that was civil, obviously, but they both got up there and said their piece. And, I mean, that's obviously a different circumstance, but you know, what I'm equating it to is the fact that you've got the star power up there. And like if you're the attorneys, you're trying to figure out, all right, is this going to hurt us or is it going to help us? Can it play with us or can it play against us? And again, it's going to boil down to the people on that jury.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
I think they're trying to
Like,
read that jury to see, are these people who are going to be kind and fair to Alec Baldwin, or are we reading this as they kind of have some disgust for him, and maybe Alec, you just need to be quiet right now.
exactly,
Um,
exactly. It's going to be
gonna
interesting, man.
very
I'm
much.
I'm kind of happy that it's like it's right around the corner too.
Yeah, starting up
But
next or starting up
it's
here.
low key. It's going to be low key fascinating that trial. That one's going to gain steam
Hmm.
like really quickly in terms of people covering it
Yeah.
because it's gonna be an interesting trial. Really is, and it's a real charge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Someone's
Like
dead. Yeah.
yeah, it's someone's dead, and he's looking at DOC time, man.
Mhm.
So, and it's got like really broad reaching ramifications if he's found guilty on it.
It does.
Like for the industry, for the film industry, it's going to be a good one, man.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.